Everything you need to know about V4. Let's jump into it. So Chris, this video is all about V4. This is the second token on the Vechain platform, right? And for those who do not know, Vechain is one of those rare two-token systems. It's a dual system that has, the cryptocurrency of VET and also the gas token, which is V4. We're going to get into this video. We're going to explain a little bit more about V4. If you find it useful and informative, do go ahead and hit that like button. We both really do appreciate it. And of course, guys, if you want to know more about hidden gems, learn about new cryptocurrencies and make money, then why not consider subscribing? By subscribing, you're going to be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. It is free and you will be kept well informed. So why not? Chris, with all that said, is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we jump over to the desktop and start talking more about V4?
Yeah, we've seen V4, do some amazing things price discovery wise over the last few weeks, and lots of our viewers are asking for this. So what do we do when lots of people ask for stuff that we deliver?
We do. We deliver. You ask, we deliver. Right. Let's jump over and see exactly what's going on.
Let's do it.
Okay. So in this video, we are going to be talking everything V4. We might have a few references to VET because obviously Vechain VET does have the two systems or the two token systems. So sometimes you need to know about one to know about the other. But V4 is the main driver behind this video. So let's get into it. The Vechain VET blockchain does consist of or basically is a two-token system, as I've mentioned. The Vechain token VET, which acts as a store and transfer of value, and the Vechain energy token, which is aka V4. Okay, and these two things work together to make the system work, really effectively. There's a reason why Vechain VET blockchain is the only 5-star blockchain in the world, right? So let's get into this in a little bit more detail. We are going to be talking about the gas token for the Vechain ecosystem. We're going to also talk about the relationship between the VET token and the V4 token. We'll also talk about how to generate V4 and the types of rewards that you can expect, and how to potentially keep transactions stable on this platform. We'll also add timestamps for these down below so you can jump to the sections that you want to. But without delaying it any further, Chris, let's start talking about the gas token and the gas of the Vechain ecosystem more specifically. So V4 is needed in order to pay for writing data to the Vechain VET blockchain. This means that every transaction sending tokens or sending data to a smart contract has to be paid for in V4. And it's one of those things, Chris, that we can see with many other kind of cryptocurrency blockchains that maybe there's only one token. Let's use the Ethereum, for example. All fees are paid in Ethereum, which is also the currency that holds the value for the smart contract. That can be problematic when trying to pay for those fees. Obviously, it's great for the Ethereum holders, but not so great for people who actually want to use the blockchain. It has a bit of a bottleneck and a bit of a problem, right? But obviously V4, who were actually built on the Ethereum blockchain to start with, decided to split away and build their own. And they built it in a two-token system to allow for, fees to be paid one way and yet currency and value to be added another, which is a fantastic approach. So the amount of V4 that is needed for a transaction it does depend on the size of the data that you want to write. A simple VET transaction will cost around 30 V4, while sending a transaction filled with data to a smart contract could potentially cost 1,000 V4 or so. Now, reading data from the blockchain is completely free for everyone, and it does not require V4 to actually transact in that way. So if you're just looking at trying to read data from the V4 blockchain, then you can do that without actually worrying about V4 at all. Now, when you check blockchain explorers, you will see that stats such as gas used, 1,000 gas, currently equals 1 V4, as defined using the V4 K-gas variable settings. So, it's all relatively transparent, Chris, and you can, get to all that data as you need. So gas does relate to 1,000 gas per one V4. So you can get a simple conversion there. So if, for example, it says you spent 23,000 gas, actually you spent 23 V4 tokens on that particular transaction. Okay, so pretty simple. But let's talk a little bit now, Chris, about the relationship between the VET token and the V4 token. So both VET and V4 are essential to the V4 or Vechain VET blockchain, in order for it to function correctly. So, VET generates V4. So by holding the VET, you will simply earn V4. And this is something that I think many of our viewers actually realize. This is something that we do regularly, Chris. We just hold the VET token within the Sync wallet. And in doing so, we generate the V4 token. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, they just buy their V4. But we like to think of this slightly differently, don't we, Chris?
Yeah, so we kind of look at it like you invest in Vechain, so the VET token, you put it into your Sync app through Ledger. Obviously, safety first, guys. Always, in our opinion, use a hardware wallet. Link in the description. Not that we're trying to pitch it to you, but safety always should be sort of top of the list when it comes to anything financial, right? And it does give you that extra layer of I guess protection. So for me, yeah, you purchase the VET token, it generates your V4 in the Sync app through Ledger, and yeah, for me, like I wouldn't personally, and there's nothing wrong with purchasing V4. It's seen some fantastic price discovery over the last few weeks. But with that said, if you invested the same amount of money in VET, then it generates your V4. You're still going to be overall better off, based on the numbers, because you've generated the additional tokens for free, didn't cost you anything. So overall, that plus your V4 you've generated and the increase that you're seeing on both has been fantastic. So that has always been the best approach for me. Whether that's going to continue to be the case as there's more adoption and more real life use case being carried out, for example, Walmart China increasing the number of lines that they're going to use VET on, for example, through the traceability side of things, that might change, right? And actually V4 might be a very, very good investment on top of purchasing your VET and generating it yourself. But
Yeah.
time will tell, right?
We'll get into what we think towards the end of this video, so do hang around
Sure.
for that, because I think there's some interesting things long term when it comes to Vechain. But ultimately, Chris, by purchasing the VET token and holding it, you're going to generate that V4, which obviously can then be used to pay for those transactions, right? And a nice quote that we like to see here is, "Without VET, there is no V4 generated. Without V4, there is no way to pay for the VET transactions." And this is a problem when you buy VET straight off an exchange. Ultimately, if you're crypto.com, where I actually purchased quite a large amount of my Vechain on VET token, they actually charged me 100 VET tokens just to move it off the exchange. And obviously that's a bit of a steep transaction fee. So you do have to watch out for those things. Obviously, if there's plenty of other exchanges out there that do have a varying amount to transaction fees. Ultimately, once it's off the exchange and you're earning that V4, it actually becomes free in essence to actually transact on the network. So definitely kind of think the VET way is better because you are generating the V4, but we'll get more into that later when we get into what the future looks like for Vechain. But ultimately, without VET, there is no V4, and without V4, there's no way to transact with the VET transactions. So it's a good little learner. Now, Vechain and the V4 generation rate. Now, this is another interesting thing because each VET token will create 0.00000005 of a V4. Doesn't sound like a lot, but you can stack up your VET tokens pretty easily. And with every block that is created, a new block gets added to the chain every 10 seconds. So you're earning quite a significant amount every 10 seconds in terms of V4. So this translates to a generation rate of about 0.0004 V4 generated per day per VET token. So if you have, let's say, 10,000 VET tokens, you'll be earning 4 V4 every single day. And obviously that can scale accordingly. So you earn a pretty reasonable amount. Now, this is the default V4 generation rate, and it can increase, but not decrease over time. So to have the generation rate increase, a vote has to occur, which all stakeholders, this is the token owners, the foundation, the enterprises, can vote on. And at the time of writing, or this particular video, I think that's around the 38 million or so V4 generated each day. It's going to be varying so much. So really interesting stuff going on there in terms of the V4 generation rate. And on use, I think 70% of the V4 gets destroyed, with the remaining 30% is paid to the authority nodes as a reward for validating the transactions. So, the V4 is constantly turning over. It doesn't just stay out in the ecosystem. It does get burnt, with only 30% actually retaining for the authority node owners for their participation in validating the transactions. So V4 is a crucial element to the Vechain for blockchain. It's really what makes the thing move. Now, we can talk a little bit, Chris, around the V4 generation reward types. It can be a little bit complicated from here, so do bear with me. Generation rates, the next to the default generation rate, which, as we said before, would be that 0.0004 per VET token per day. There are different ways to potentially look at this, and so that's your default. And there are actually 4 different types from here. Now, they call reward type 1. There are ultimately 3 different methods. So your default is your reward type 1, and there are 3 additional levels from here. And these are additional ways that you can earn V4, right? So if we talk about the reward type 2, so this is where you are an authority node. So you power, confirming transactions, and you're powering the network, right? So the V4 power generation rate is 30% of all of the V4 power consumed by the blockchain transactions, will be awarded to the 101 owners of a master node. 70% will get burned. Okay, so the reward type 2 is all about those node operators, and the additional 30% going to those guys. Now, reward type 3 is an authority node or an economic node, excluding the smallest V4X node. And obviously there's loads of different node types here, and they're important for the businesses more so than it is for the general holders. But the 4 power generated here is basically the Vechain Foundation has set up a special pool, which is called the Foundation Reward Pool, and that has 15 billion VET in it. The V4 power generated by this pool is then divided amongst those eligible for the reward type 3. And there are a couple of additional notes here. So the foundation pool will decrease by 2.5 billion VET every 6 months until further notice. Okay, so there is some interesting things going on there, but obviously there's a barrier to entry, I should say, Chris, when it comes to reward type 3 and type 4, because they do require a significant Vechain on VET token holding in order to actually be eligible. But let's talk now, Chris, about the reward type 4, which again, this comes in as the authority node or the X economic node. And the V4 generation rate here is, again, down to that special pool, which is called the Foundation X reward pool, which has 5 billion VET tokens in it. And the 4 power generated by this pool is then divided amongst those that are eligible for the reward type 4. And the Foundation X pool will remain at 5 billion until further notice, and it will not decrease unless they choose to do so. So you can learn more about this by literally just checking out the white paper on the Vechain website. So I do recommend doing that if you're wanting to know more about how you can potentially earn more V4 via these node types, but they are a little bit more complicated and they do require a little bit of expertise. So do have to watch out for that. But let's talk a little bit, Chris, about keeping those transactions stable. So the whole idea of a 2-coin system is that it allows for the transaction fees to remain relatively stable compared to a system where there is only 1 coin. So again, taking that Ethereum as example, we can see that the Ethereum prices have risen significantly. And this caused an average transaction fee to become significantly higher as well. And we've seen Well, actually, Chris, we were running, things on the Ethereum blockchain. We were trying to mint some NFTs, and it was incredibly expensive to mint those 100 NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain. So you can see how it doesn't really work from keeping things stable. And if you're running a business, you need to have predictable costs, which you just simply cannot have with Ethereum at the moment. So this is a big problem for anyone who wants to use the Ethereum blockchain, okay? And that's not just NFTs, but there are some big players on that space as well. If we look at Celsius and the amount of users that Celsius have, start thinking about the amount of fees that Celsius are actually having to pay in Ethereum just to be able to transact. It's a little bit off the chart, really, and it's a bit daft. So you can see how things do need to change. So the cost of a transaction can be calculated, though, for the VeChain. And this is a transaction cost equals the V4 price times the amount of V4 needed. And it's relatively straightforward. So this allows for two mechanisms to keep transaction costs stable. Increase the V4 generation rate, okay? So if you ever needed to, they could adjust that rate and you will be able to earn more V4 as needed. And by increasing the V4 generation rate, more V4 will hit the market, potentially lowering the V4 price and bringing the transaction costs down. When this occurs, the VET owners will still generate the same amount of value for their tokens, since the V4 price might go down. The amount of V4 they are generating goes up, okay, and therefore you can compensate for the rate that's needed. Now, the change the amount of V4 needed. So this is the second thing that could keep the transaction stable for VeChain. This is by increasing or decreasing the V4 that is required for a transaction, to basically allow for the transaction cost to be influenced a little bit. So when increasing the amount of V4 needed, the transaction cost will increase. This will also result in more V4 being burnt. More V4 being burnt will increase the demand for V4, further increasing the V4 price and the cost for a transaction. On the other side, lowering the amount of V4 needed, the transaction cost will decrease and less of the generated V4 supply will be burnt. Both changes have been agreed upon by all stakeholders, enterprises, DApp owners, VET holders, and authority nodes of the ecosystem. Using decentralized vote, everyone can vote if they agree to the change. Only when the majority agree, the foundation will decide to change the parameters. So the two coin system gives users the ecosystem multiple options to pay for their transaction fees. Enterprises wanting to use the blockchain to buy V4, they need from the open market, don't need to hold VET at all, right? And we'll get more into that in a moment. They can, however, also decide to buy VET using the VET token. Using this VET token, they can generate the V4, which they can use to pay for their operations on the blockchain. And users can, of course, buy VET and sell V4 that they generate on the open market. The adoption of the VeChain for blockchain, the need for V4 will rise. Because of this, the demand for the VET will also rise. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, Chris, now about what we think the future looks like for both the VeChain VET token and the V4 token. Now, if we fast forward by 10 years, and VeChain have actually onboarded a significant number of businesses, large and small. Unfortunately, one of the byproducts of the system is that the V4 token and the VET token will be in high demand. The VET token itself, potentially by the larger enterprises, will actually be locked up into wallets and will be earning the V4 that they need to be, transacting with the network. That will mean that smaller businesses that would like to use the V4 or the VeChain blockchain will ultimately be left with either having to pay for a relatively expensive VET token to generate the enough V4 for their needs, or they'll be left with potentially purchasing the V4 on the open market. So there's two scenarios. Obviously, large enterprises most likely will have the capital required to purchase up millions upon millions of VET tokens and just keep them hodled in the wallet for their needs. The smaller enterprises, however, the ones that are maybe slightly tighter and have less cash flow may not actually have the required funds to, actually stake and hold that much VET token. And therefore, they'll just be looking to purchase the V4 token needed for transacting, right? So in time, I can see this thing really popping on both coins. We'll see the V4 token potentially increasing in value significantly as smaller businesses require it to transact. With bigger enterprises, Chris, potentially locking up large amounts of VET, which will also drive the price of the VET token up significantly higher. So I think long term, there's a win-win scenario. But for me, I am, of course, just purchasing up the VET token because I believe in 10 years, I will have a significant V4 holding too. But Chris, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same as yourself. I mean, I might make a cheeky purchase of V4 at some point, maybe in a bear market if we see that for VeChain and the V4 token. But at these prices, I'm not going to be purchasing it additionally. If anything, I'm just going to continue purchasing VeChain, so the VET token, and generate it myself.
Absolutely. So guys, hopefully you did find this video useful and informative. If you did, then do go ahead and hit that like button. We both really do appreciate it. And if you want to know more about those hidden gems that we talk about here at Cheeky Crypto, learn about new cryptocurrencies, and even maybe make money, then do consider subscribing. By subscribing, you're going to be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. It is free, you'll be kept well informed, so why not? And with that said, we hope everyone has a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Yeah, take care.